2, 3.
Welcome to the Smartest Amazon Seller Podcast. I am your host, Scott Needham. I have a proud announcement to make. I was doing some research yesterday to find out that this podcast is the top 1.5% of podcasts in the world. So we made it there. We're really high. To get to the 1%, though, I think that we're just going to have to ask everyone that's ahead of us to just stop podcasting, and then we'll get to the top 1%. So I'll let you guys know when that happens. So today I've got a really good guest, someone that I've worked with for over a year. We did work through the pandemic, and he's even helped me with Smart Scout. He's using it in a way that like no one else is using it, but we're not going to talk about that at all. He has really pioneered some ways of taking Amazon products and building traffic off of that. So he actually did wholesale and found out some of its weaknesses and found out how to juice wholesale with this model. And then this is really targeted towards brand owners, so private labels. So everyone's going to be able to get a lot of information. So I've got Andrew. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Thanks for that amazing intro. I appreciate it. You know, I've been a major fan, so it's actually super crazy to be on the podcast now.
No, I was trying to get you on this podcast almost a year ago. Yeah. And we've only jammed ideas since then. So did I get any of your intro wrong? Like, you know, you have done a lot of interesting things with Amazon, and specifically, you know, you've made a pivot of your own. So Tell me a little bit more about how you started and then where you made some major shifts.
Yeah, for sure. So, my name's Drew. I'm the founder of Single Brain Digital. So a few years ago, you know, I was a corporate cog. I was in the consulting in the IT space. And I really hated what I was doing day to day. And so I believe like around 2015, I started playing online. I started with Shopify, really failed at understanding how to drive traffic. So then, you know, I found this new opportunity, which was Amazon. And, you know, the story was, hey, go on Amazon. You don't got to worry about any of that. And so, you know, I went on Amazon, started off with OA, and found out that like, you know, Amazon is really just like a science, right? And so I love testing systems. And so I found out a pretty solid system for OA. But then I ran into some issues where like we weren't scaling as fast as I wanted. And so from there, I moved over to wholesale. And so like wholesale was even more so amazing just because, you know, that definitely is once you understand the systems that you can put in place, then it's really just like, you know, a how fast can you grow game, right? And so as I was doing wholesale, though, my biggest issue became being able to like fund the products that we were finding. Mm-hmm. So, you know, my margins were tight. I would constantly be competing against other sellers. And it was very hard for me personally. You know, I've still bootstrapped everything. And so it was very hard for me to compete. And so, you know, I started going online. You know, my background was, you know, in psychology marketing. And so I really wanted to find, you know, how can I separate myself? And that's when I found ClickFunnels and, you know, Russell Brunson and his perspective really changed my whole framework of how I thought about e-commerce. Absolutely.
It's interesting. I've read all of his books. Love it. I read 15 pages and I have to put it down because of how excited I get. So because I had read his books, like everything that you were telling me, Drew, I always clicked with. I was like, oh, I kind of get it. And it's the idea of, we'll jump into this, but like building lists of customers. You know, Amazon doesn't let you have customers. And so that is a flaw of the marketplace for someone entering it. Now, the thing is Amazon does have some other huge benefits. So, I mean, like free traffic, you know, that's right. And then organic positioning just means so much to that. But for brand owners, or people looking to like grow the value of a brand, it's e-commerce presence in general. That's not enough. You can do so much more. And so I've always resonated with what you have done. And but tell us a little bit more about, some of these early transitions of taking this ClickFunnels approach to Amazon.
Yeah, for sure. So, I was doing wholesale. I got really good at the front end. So, wholesale for us was really about finding the right products. I wanted to make sure that I was able to aggregate all of the competition's data and look at, okay, well, if I only have $10,000 to spend, if I only have, if I can only place an order for $20,000, where is my money best invested? And so I had a team on the front end that would, aggregate all of this data, and then we would invest into the top 1-2% of brands that I found an opportunity with. And so my issue still became, though, I was running on super tight margins, as my team was growing, my margins continued to decrease. And then, I was working with people that weren't willing to give up points on the margin for me to be able to scale at a pace that I was happy with. This whole time I'm trying to cover pretty solid salary, so I'm trying to leave completely. So for me, I need something that's going to be able to take care of that salary.
Yeah.
So that was a
lot of people do struggle with that. Like, what do I pay myself in my business? Or essentially when can you make that transition and leave your job? I mean, a lot of people just don't start in Amazon. They move, and it's not an easy nudge. But so I hear you.
Yeah, it's definitely scary. It's security. I honestly had it down pat to where like I wasn't working more than 20 hours. And so it's like, it's very hard to leave a good salary with, benefits and all this stuff and growth opportunity. But it just wasn't me. And so this whole time I was just using that money to reinvest into like testing to find out, like, I need to find out what's going to get me away from like the corporate world. Right. And so with wholesale, like, I wanted to grow, and we kept running into like cash flow problems. I wouldn't have enough money to continue purchasing inventory. And even though like, I felt like we were pretty well optimized. And so that was at a point where I was really, trying to figure out, do I take in outside money to continue growing? But for me, like, it may be a crazy thought, but I just feel like this can be something crazy. And so I wanted to retain my equity. And so I started looking at other opportunities, and that's when I found Russell Brunson. And so the way that I started using that was, I initially started asking the brands that I was working with, like, hey, can I optimize your listing? Can I, take pictures for you? Like, there was opportunity even on their own listing. So that's how I initially started off. And then I got a little bit more confidence and started building some solid relationships with some wholesale brands that I was working with. And so I just started asking them like, hey, I have this crazy idea of how we can get you more sales, but I haven't tested it. I don't know if it's going to work, but I feel like you have the prime opportunity. And so like, I started getting more opportunities with people just like letting me play around with their baby. And, we started building out funnels, and initially what I would do is I would build out just a lead gen funnel and use that to distribute coupons on Amazon. And so instead of, people doing a giveaway or anything like that, where that's just kind of like throwing money down the drain, whenever you're doing an influencer campaign or doing, just a regular giveaway campaign, well, you might as well collect those emails. You're giving away all of this product. You might as well get something for it other than just that initial source of traffic. So that's the first thing that we started doing is, we would build out a lead gen funnel and then send that traffic over to Amazon, because now that I have that email, I can send them over to Amazon whenever I want with a new coupon, with a new offer. And we started seeing increase in sales on Amazon through, driving these outside sources of traffic. So
if there's one concept that really the people in the audience should be understanding right now, is what Drew just described, is that you're creating traffic that you own.
Yeah.
And that's the power of it. Amazon doesn't let you own traffic. That's fine. Like we optimize to get to take on this traffic, advertising, all these different things that you can do, SEO optimization, that's all for that. But, you can actually create traffic that you own outside of it. And once you have like a customer's email, that is essentially traffic that you own. It costs you like fractions of a penny to send them an offer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's really three forms of traffic, right? There's traffic that you pay for, which is paid advertising. I mean, if your audience is advertising on Amazon, they're familiar with that. Yep. There's organic traffic. Your audience, if they're doing any SEO on their listing, that's considered organic traffic, right? So you optimize once and it's all about ranking. And then there's traffic that you own, and that's the opportunity that you don't get on Amazon. And that's where outside of Amazon, you can still do those paid traffic. You can do your free traffic, which is, your organic. But now, once you send that to a list, or you send that to a place where they can give you their email, now you have that list forever. And so that's really, the backbone of everything, right? Is you build your list. That's, like you said, that's traffic that you own until they tell you like, hey, you're annoying me, stop emailing me.
Yeah.
Right?
And you kind of just said it right there, is like, you can send coupons once a month. That's not super annoying for people that have already shown interest.
Yeah.
Most of these people are like, hey, I don't need this product right now, but you show them a coupon in, on a month, and you're capturing high intent people with like an offer, and then they just make a purchase without thinking about it. This is psychology. Not everyone's ready to make a purchase at every hour of the day. You catch them at the right time, they'll do it.
Definitely. And, and that's kind of like the shift in mindset that, that sellers really have to make, is that Amazon as a platform is transactional. They've created a area where customers convert. Customers are looking for something that they need and they're converting there on site. Sure, some people put things in the cart, but that's, overall buying pattern. We're initially just looking at it. Amazon is very transactional, whereas really selling stuff to people, like, cutting out all of the middlemen, is a long-term investment. It's a relationship that you have to build. You have to nurture that relationship until they actually convert. If you're on Amazon, I think you have like 7 seconds to capture somebody's attention. Well, it's even worse direct to consumer, because you're competing against so many people. And so you then have to get in front of them as many times as possible so that they start to see your brand, so that they're familiar with you, so that they start to trust you. And you can do all of that through email. And so that's why it's that critical point of conversion for that first, to get that customer into your ecosystem.
Yeah. Yep. I certainly hear you. Tell us, how things started to like succeed. I mean, we've walked up to this point where you were there and you were working with these brands, and then, it started to work.
Yeah. So, initially what I started doing was I was just asking for margin. So I would say, hey, I'll do all of this stuff for you. I'll manage it all for you. Just give me a couple points on your product so that I can start to make some money. And then that moved into, hey, I have, I'm increasing your sales. I have 5 other people that we're sharing sales with right now. So let's just make this me and you. Make this exclusive. I want to be the only seller on your listing, and I'll still continue to do everything that we're doing. So initially that's how
Yeah. Yeah. Were you able to, like, how did you show them that what value you were adding, like in terms of sales?
So initially I would build it out for free. Like before I even spoke to them, I would say, hey, I've built this for you, because I would have those wholesale relationships. So I would say, hey, like, I built this for you, because our relationships were mostly brand direct, and show them the funnel with their design, with the concept behind it, and say, this is my plan for you. And so once we started sending traffic there, they would see the increase in sales, and I could track that to where I could track that back to us. So why would we share, with 4 other sellers that aren't doing anything for you? Whereas I'm invested into your brand, and so that's how I really started to position myself separately, or, away from everybody else. Even if they had a larger check than me, it didn't matter, because we were here to increase their sales. The difference was if we were competing against bigger wholesaler, somebody that had more capital and I was vying for that exclusivity, then the challenge was where does my value come in? And that's with everything that we were doing. And so I wouldn't get to that point. I wouldn't ask them for exclusivity until we had shown that it worked. Yep. And so that was kind of and then at that point I went over, you had your event in San Diego and I literally don't go to any events. I'm pretty introverted. I just kind of stick to myself and my team. And so I went to the event. I said, you know what? It's an hour away from me. Let me drive over here. I was already a major fan. And so I went there, everybody kind of introduced themselves. I spoke a little bit about what I did. And, I saw people's eyes perked up, they were like, okay, well, what's this? This is, maybe a little bit new. And I started getting a ton of questions, after the event and stuff. And so I was still working at that point. And so I just, said, I have to go all in on this. I knew this is where the opportunity was. And we've just kind of grown from there. And so now we help, Amazon sellers go direct to consumer. And we do that with our system of marketing.
That is awesome. And I didn't know all these details. I remember that's where I met Drew, and I'll say one thing about that dinner, it had the right energy when people were introducing themselves and we were cheering them on, because there was a few people there that were so brand new. And one kid drove from Las Vegas. He hit Nike outlets on his way. It just was it was just funny. And so who knew that dinner and conversation would lead to this podcast right now. So I hope everyone's listening to this and can fill in the blanks, because if you're a private label seller and you've only been directly on Amazon, well, you're missing the true one of the truest parts of brand building. And that's work that you can do off of Amazon to improve your product. Yeah. And Amazon, I've heard this dozens of times. No one's ever going to be able to prove this, but off Amazon traffic onto Amazon, they pay attention to that and they reward it. Right. If you have good sales and good customer, just your product is working and it's growing their bottom line because they're getting outside traffic direct to your product, they reward that. And so it starts this feedback loop of growth.
And you definitely don't have to, it's a process, right? There's sellers that are nervous about, the direct to consumer side because there's more involved. Amazon is a science and people like you have that science down. Right. And so, but direct to consumer is also science, but it's art as well. All of your creative, all of your branding. And so, that's where there's a little bit more to take on, but it's fruitful, and it's worth it. And you don't have to make that leap 100%. There's really two channels that you can focus on, Amazon being one of them. and then direct to consumer being the other, because those are your two most profitable channels. And so,
and for either one of those, building your own list is valuable. And I know that like we've kind of glossed over like building a list in quotations of like, there's work to do. And a lot of people might not know, how do you build this list? How do you build like customers interested in your product? And I know you have an answer to this.
Oh yeah, definitely. So like, the first thing, really going direct to consumer, whether your end point of conversion is your Amazon listing or your funnel, your site or whatever. But the first thing that you want to focus in on is your offer. So when you're on Amazon, you don't really have to create an offer. You do your market research, you look at where everybody else is at, you differentiate yourself a little bit, but there's no real offer creation. And so that's where on the direct to consumer side, you just want to understand what everybody else is doing to get people to raise their hand and say, hey, this is, I'm interested in your category. And so would an off
Amazon offer be like a Shopify site?
No, so an off Amazon offer, like let's say we're trying to send them over to Amazon to convert, that offer would look like, hey, come to this landing page to get a 15% coupon, or come here to get a buy one, get one coupon, and you can still convert on Amazon, right? And so that's all stuff that we can track. Okay. And so, that's the first thing that you want to look at is what's going to get people's attention. Then, you really want to start to build out your list. And so the best way that you can do this is like, think of websites. A lot of brands use, just Shopify sites. Well, it's great to send your traffic there, but what happens is you can't, there's so much on your website that it's overwhelming. And if you sell more than 2, 3, 4, 5 products, when you send them there for one thing, they're looking at a whole bunch of different SKUs. So you have
when you're thinking like an offer, you're thinking more like a landing page with like one thing, like one coupon for one product.
Right. And so there's multiple offers that you can make. You can make your lead gen offer. So that lead gen offer would be your coupon, a giveaway. If you have an influencer promoting your product, and so that would be your initial offer that you're sending them to. And then where you get them to convert is that landing page of, hey, this is where you collect it. Just give us your email. And if you can, get a phone number as well.
And then that helps you build your list because they're inputting their information, and then you can route them to where you want, whether that's off Amazon or on Amazon, with that offer in hand, like buy one get one free or buy one get one 50% off. Mm-hmm. In the process, they've given you their information. They become traffic that you own, and in a month, you can build off of that. You can send them another email of another offer, and you don't have to pay for them again.
Right. And that's 100% in. Once you have their information, now you can warm them up. So you can give them a welcome series that introduces your brand, who you guys are. You can give them additional coupons. So like, hey, we've seen that you've purchased here's an extra 20% off to go and, send them to something else that you have on your listing. You can also use the list for a lot of other things. So you can use it to, test out new products. So for example, if you're looking at what's that next thing, well, you have a list of people that are interested in a specific category. You can start to pre-test what they're interested in. And that saves you so much money.
I've got a brand right now that I'm ready. I'm like, shut up, taking my money, because we're launching 24 puzzles. I love these pictures. Well, if we sell one puzzle, chances are this is a puzzle person, and we can offer them the next, and mm-hmm. And really, we can retain them as long as possible. And yes, we rely on Amazon's logistics, but a list with matching products is just valuable forever. And a lot of brands, that sometimes is their most valuable asset, is their customer list. Hey, I'm interrupting this interview halfway through just because I am afraid some people might drop off without hearing the most important part of this podcast. And that's to take the advice that we're talking about right here into action, and that all of this is freely available. These steps that we're talking about at www.buildmycustomerlist.com. I think you have to just check it out and see how you can apply this to your business. And we keep going into the details of why, and I think we've already done that, but I just want to interrupt, say, hey, you don't leave this podcast without hearing about this site. All right, thanks. So I actually have a random question, because I have a lot of different products. Mm-hmm. How do I tackle this with, that in mind? Where our private label, we have, I would say, 5 different brands that can be related. How would we just maintain 5 different lists?
Yeah. So the key to building out your list is segmenting and understanding who's who. So you don't want to have one jumbled list of everybody. I want to know, hey, this person is specific to this category. They bought this product. They haven't bought my other products. And then so as, and because the circumstance for a lot of sellers is, hey, we have a ton of ASINs. I don't even know where to start. Would I make a list? Would I make a landing page for each one? And so what we're looking at,
I presume there's some tools to help out here.
Yeah. So, you have first your landing page tools, which would be like a ClickFunnels or SAM or, there's Kartra and things like that. I mean, our preference is really ClickFunnels just because it's fast, it's easy, it looks good, and, it has the least amount of bugs. You can also build it out on WordPress and stuff like that. And then you have your automation and email follow-up tool. And so that'll be, Sam does that all in one as well. Or you can use Klaviyo, you can use ActiveCampaign. And so these tools, then once you have that email, that secondary part of it is, well, I have to automate that follow-up, right?
Yep.
And so so essentially once you build out that list, then you're really looking at conversions. And so how do you then start to get that list to convert into sales? And that's in your messaging and stuff like that.
Awesome. Let's see. I mean, there's so much to piece apart. There's a lot of tweaks that people can make in any step along this process. Mm-hmm. But you were, we were talking before, and you've kind of put together essentially a framework that people can follow and learn more. And, I honestly don't want to reinvent the wheel here. I want to follow steps that I know that work. Now we have people interested and they're ready. What's next?
Yeah. So let's say, you have a product on Amazon and you're like, hey, I want to take advantage of this brand new opportunity of really, creating that customer journey from beginning to end so that I can then, because here's the 2 things that you don't get on Amazon that going direct to consumer does allow you to do, and the reason why it's so beneficial to your brand overall. So number 1, you get to focus on average order values. So just to kind of pre-frame that, an average order value would, on Amazon, you typically get a transactional sell. So that would be, if they're searching for something, they're going to buy it one time, because if they're going to go back to buy it, then you're also seeing all your competition. But when you go direct to consumer, you have the opportunity to now bundle products and create additional offers, upsells, downsells. And so this now allows you to take that one sell for one time into a more bundled offer. And so you can now increase the value of that cart. And so that's that first, metric that is really important. And then the second is your lifetime value. And so this is, missed on Amazon because you don't have, like you said, you don't have the opportunity to, email them after they bought something from you. So by building out this nurturing process, you can then, create that customer lifetime value, or you can then increase that customer lifetime value. So those are the 2 metrics that are really important. And yeah, so, if you're really looking at, okay, well, how do I now start to go direct to consumer? I'm interested. Well, you first want to create your offer. So that's the primary thing that you want to do is look at what your competition is doing, look at what's working in the market, and how do you make it sexy enough and irresistible enough to where nobody has the option to not buy from you. You want to make it so everybody that sees that, if they're interested within that category, they're going to raise their hand and opt in. Mm-hmm. So that's either your free plus shipping offer or a lead gen offer that we spoke about. Next, well, you have to build your email list. And so that's typically on a landing page. And so step 2 would be to create your landing page. And this is where you exchange, your offer for their email. So they're giving you their email and you're giving them that initial offer. So now that you have their email, now that next part of it is to get them to convert, because like you said, everybody's not going to convert the first time. And so step 3 is to really nurture them into conversion. And so if you're selling on Amazon, this is a little bit harder to track unless you're doing like coupons and things like that. But if you're doing this on your own funnel, then you can track, what traffic is converting. So the next step of that is step 4, which is to really start to then sell them more stuff. So this is how we then increase that average order value. And so we want to make sure that every customer that comes into our ecosystem, that we're creating the solution so that they're buying everything that they need from us. Mm-hmm. So for example, if you're selling, a dog leash, then they would then buy, whatever, like the bags to pick up their feces when you take them on a walk, or, whatever you want, whatever that solution is that they're looking for, that's where you then can sell them everything else that's a part of that solution at a discounted price to compete against your competition, because you now have acquired that customer. So you don't then have to pay to acquire that customer again. Yep. So once you have that and, you're able to then sell them more stuff, the last thing that you want to do, which is step 5, is to retain them for as long as possible. And so retention is extremely important. And if you're on Amazon and, the buzz is right now like, oh, I want to sell my brand. Well, think about how valuable it is to any of these aggregators or anybody looking to buy brands, that you can say now, hey, I have a list of customers. I know what they're worth when they come and transact with me. And I know what their lifetime value is worth, because we have nurturing sequences that are constantly selling to them. And at that point, I don't have to worry about Amazon bringing in that traffic. I don't have to rely on Amazon. Sure, I can. And why wouldn't I? Because, Amazon's 40% of the market. But you have this other world over here that can bring you more margins, so higher margins, and you now can invest more into advertising because you understand your costs to acquire a customer and you understand what they spend with you. Yep. And so once you understand those numbers, now it's about, hey, every $2 that I put in, I'm getting a multiple on that back. So it's a money printing machine.
You've said a few numbers there that like every brand builder should just kind of, they should be working towards. And it's like this, everyone keeps talking about acquisitions right now. Like, well, if you have a customer list and you can show some data on that customer list, valuable. You're like, I got 10,000 customers, and I know, that like if I send out an email, it's going to lead to this many sales, and it's going to super awesome. And you've put together everything that we've talked about in this podcast. You're putting together on a website so people can kind of learn this on their own.
Yeah, for sure. So, a big part of getting started is, hey, I don't even know where to start. So what I've packaged up together is one of the first things that you need to start. So we put together a lead gen funnel template. So that means you go and you download this template and you literally swap out your logo. You're swapping out your picture, your specific offer. And it's, if you've edited something on Amazon, you can like edit this. And then we've also created your core email follow-up campaigns So once they come in with that offer, we've put in a couple templates in there. So that way you can then have that framework to where you're literally plugging in your brand name, your product, your offer. And so you have everything built out for you. All you now need to do is figure out, where am I going to get this traffic from? And so, there's a couple of different ways of doing that, but, that's the core asset that you need to really get your list started. And as we've discussed, that's really the backbone of all of this. They can pick that up at buildmycustomerlist.com. So that's buildmycustomerlist.com. And that's completely free. So you can go ahead and get access to that.
Yeah. You've essentially created some sort of e-commerce funnel of your own. And with, the Amazon experience that you have, and the brand relations that you have, it works, and it certainly scales. There's other ways to get a hold of Drew. You're on Instagram at .com_Drew. He always puts out some pretty good stuff. I have followed him for quite some time. But this really is an awesome podcast to put together, because a lot of my audience needs to hear this. They need to know, there's always this question of for wholesalers, which there are many listening, of what do I do more to provide value to brands? They know that's what they have to do to differentiate themselves. And private label, you're on your own. You've got to build your customer list. You got to know the different tools at your disposal to do that. And whether you're a one-man shop or a 10-man, you kind of need this in your wheelhouse. Thank you so much for talking about it. Did I miss anything?
No, that's exactly it. There's so much opportunity. It's literally, as a founder, as a brand owner, the biggest thing that I've found is just find the people that can help you out. I've learned a ton from you. You soak up as much knowledge as you can, and so it's just, thank you for the opportunity to come and share this. Hopefully your audience found it valuable. Like you said.
No, thank you. I wish I had this conversation just 2 days ago. I was on a call with some people and I've been this is what else you can do. This is definitely something that you need in your deck. Thanks so much, Drew, for coming on, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. And if you know some wholesalers or private labelers that are struggling with their, the reach of the brands that they're representing, they need to build a customer list. And so go to buildmycustomerlist.com. Awesome. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yep. Take care, everyone, and have a good one.